Alright, YouTube, welcome to our patch rundown. So, me and a couple of my friends have decided that we're going to go ahead and make this League-centered YouTube channel. We're going to do things like guides, other stupid crap, but we're all platinum here, so we're pretty much scrubs, but hey, I'm sure this will still be useful. So, Thomas, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Thomas Shine, I'm an 80 carry main, and I'm plat 3.
Nate, will you introduce yourself?
And I am Nate. I play under Harmless Flowers, SoCal Psych, and Rip Bot Lane. And I am a jungle/support main.
I am Shortwired. I am Plat 5. I am a support/mid main. And so we have a wide variety of roles we all play, and so we know different things about different champions. So we should have some interesting conversations about how Riot has ruined even more champions every patch.
Notice
So,
how we don't have a top lane player.
Yeah.
yeah, top lane is an endless quest of solitude.
I think we all played top lane at one point, and then we quit because we wanted to win games.
Well, rest in peace. Whenever I was like, Rumble is the best champ ever, and then I met Riven. So, I guess starting off, we're on the game systems page. Normally we don't care about it, but this is a death recap. Maybe Riot has finally fixed this broken system, or maybe it's still going to tell you that you took 3,000 damage from a caster minion.
Yep. So hopefully this is good because it's been broken for like a really long time, and it is actually helpful when you're trying to buy defensive items because you just got raped. When you're like, well, I guess I should get MR.
Yeah. While they're at this, they should probably also fix that Victor exploit where he like one shots people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they did a little bit of stuff with like a skill shot line projection. So they changed the way that like skill shots interact with hitboxes. And I don't actually know how that's going to be, but I think it's going to be about the same. But we might not see such like wonky thresh hooks moving around on hitboxes and stuff. Hopefully.
I think it's a direct nerf to Xerath.
Yes.
Especially as Q.
Especially non-scripting Xerath, but...
Another thing that's probably going to be effective fairly largely is Lux's ultimate.
Yeah, sometimes it just goes over you, sometimes it's...
Sometimes just the
it's
tip
like
gets you.
Vel'Koz, dude. You don't want to mess with that. It's like,
So, slow stacking.
Yeah, so slows no longer stack from multiple sources. This would happen if, like, a certain champion has a slow, someone else has, like, a Rylai's, and then someone, like, smited them with Chilling Smite. So it's going to basically, I think, they're saying that it's going to basically calculate tenacity based on the first slow that you get hit with.
I don't see any problems with that.
Yeah, so this should be fairly minor.
Are we going to go over our thoughts on Tahm Kench?
I think that we should save that for like a specific video. Like we can do a video right afterwards, and we can have our thoughts about Tahm Kench. Our opinions have all changed on him based on when he was first released on the PBE, and the current state he's at now. So currently, we think that he's probably not a very good jungler, and he's probably not the best support, although he might be played there. So his home will probably be like in the top lane. And how good he is there on the meta, I don't know.
Echo.
So the first change is on Echo.
It doesn't look like it's anything, but Echo's attack frame slightly improved and recommended item updates. Those are both good changes.
Yeah, so I've played Echo a fair amount, and I didn't notice any problem with the mechanics of his swing. But I'm sure this probably helps a little bit.
If they made it better, good for him.
So Jace gets buffed yet again.
These are, I think this is
pretty fix.
Oh, this is a fix to the buff? Okay, my bad.
You don't touch this.
Don't wait.
Oh, this actually was happening? Okay, so...
This is technically a nerf, then.
This is technically a nerf.
Yeah, that's how I beat Nate.
So I didn't actually... Oh, so this is actually how Tommy won that one game on Jace.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty minor. So something that's not minor, however, is the changes to Kalista this patch.
Okay, these are pretty big, especially the Q change.
So the first part, and I think that we can probably like delve into this one a little bit, but I think it's kind of messed up that... Not that they nerfed Kalista, because I think that her early game needed to be toned down, but the fact that she no longer deals 100% attack damage on auto attack.
So, I think there are two things wrong with this. Number one, it completely butchers the the reliability of, okay, your auto attack, your AD is how much damage you do on each auto attack.
Exactly.
This makes her the only champion in the game that this affects, and it makes her very wonky when you compare her to other champions and less fluid. The other thing is it's not really that big of a nerf to her early game. It's more of a nerf to her late game, if you think about it.
Well, the second part is that they increase not only her base damage, but also her base growth stat. So what this is going to work out to be is it's going to be a slight nerf to her like level 2 all-in and like her level 3 and 4 all-in, but towards the end of the game, it's going to be fairly close, I believe.
Yeah. I think you probably do the calculations. Like you said, it's probably going to be really close. It's either going to be a slight nerf or a slight buff. I don't think it'll be
Well, it'll discourage the Bloodthirster first build on her, and it really encourages people to build her down the Blade of the Ruin King Hurricane route.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because if you just stack a lot of AD, you won't get the full benefit from it.
So, the Q change. She can no longer cast her spear while mid-dash.
And this is also like a fairly significant change, because if you hit level 2 before your lane opponent, and you all in them, bot lane, that the finishing move was to Q and then rend. And you could do this right after you jumped forward. You would auto-attack Q rend. And then oftentimes that would kill them. So the fact that she can't get off the last Q right before she rends is a nerf to her early all-in.
Okay, break here. Every Kalista ever takes W first, and the best don't take Q until level 4.
Okay. Still, it's a nerf, I'll say.
Next change on Kayle. These are pretty significant. I think they're necessary. We haven't seen Kayle in a while in the meta since she was nerfed a while ago.
I miss it.
Yeah. I almost completely forgot about this champion.
I used to play a lot of Kayle back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Kayle.
Kayle jungle, that was when...
Kayle jungle, Kayle mid, yeah. Yeah, those are good times.
Her E, passively, Kayle's basic attacks deal extra magic damage on a hit.
Oh, yeah.
So this is pretty much just her E's active now has a weaker version of it on the passive. Which...
Yeah, and this is really good because ever since they heavily nerfed her AP ratio on her Q, you pretty much always max E first on Kayle. So you're already maxing E first, and now this not only helps with last hitting early on, which can be a little bit painful on her recently, but it also really helps her trade like in lane, which is something that she really lacked.
Now, this change on top of the higher scaling on it, do you think this will be enough to bring her back into the metagame?
I think that this makes hybrid Kayle once again very interesting. Because one thing that you could do with Kayle is that you could get a Blade of the Ruin King on her, and then she actually became fairly good at damaging enemies. And you could also get a Hurricane.
Hybrid Kayle, what are you thinking on like Rage Blade?
You see, I have toyed around with hybrid Kayle, and it's been a while since I did this. Yeah, but I mean, you could get like a Runin's Hurricane and like an Hourglass if you're against like an 80 matchup, or you get like a Blade of the Ruin King or like a Gunblade, and you actually do like a fair amount of mixed damage on her. And this makes it 30 extra damage per auto attack is not insignificant. It's actually fairly good, and the fact that she now has a slightly increased AP ratio and also a second AP ratio on the bonus damage, I think is really good.
Personally, I think that this will definitely bring Kayle back in the meta. I feel like she just needed a little jump from like the last time she got nerfed.
Now, if you think she's coming back, what role do you think she would come back in first?
Mid, of course.
Okay.
I don't think that this buff is good enough to see her played in mid again.
In my opinion, I think the only thing that could bring her back into mid is these buffs and if Assassin started to be played again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
And Kayle was the ultimate foil to the Assassin team comp, and also to, especially back at the end of Season 3, you would have a lot of team comps that would have either AP or AD Assassin mid lane, and then they would have a Vi jungle. and then Vi would basically initiate the fight onto any squishy, and then the assassin would kill the squishy. Kayle was really good at protecting that target.
So Mordekaiser is basically the assassin counter, but Kayle basically would do what he does but better, because she can push in the wave with her E, she can use her ultimate to block the assassin's burst like Mordekaiser does with shield, and she actually has a slight bit of mobility.
You have to think, though, Kayle was also really good in the meta where it was the supportive mid laners, like Syndra, Orianna, and who else was good at the time? Like,
Ahri was really good.
Ahri. Well, she's. I don't think of supportive when I think of Ahri.
Well, I don't usually think of Syndra as supportive, but okay.
No, well, you can 5-man stun.
Yeah.
Kayle, obviously, she's, you know, she's really good at supporting the team.
She has a lot of utility.
Carries, utility.
The main problem with Kayle is that Kayle is really good late game, but she had a very difficult path ever since they nerfed her Q a lot. So this should help. This also stacks with the Hurricane's 10 base damage extra that you get from the recurve bow as well as Blade of the Ruined King.
Yeah.
So I see this as being like a really good trading tool for Kayle, and a way for her to scale slightly better.
Will we see Wits End Kayle?
Probably not. Okay,
but so
on to Kennen.
The Kennen changes.
Will we see Wits End Kennen?
Oh, I wish.
So they fixed a bug in the tooltip where the stun duration was 1.25 seconds, but written as 1.5 seconds. So basically, his stun was lasting a quarter of a second longer than it was listed, but this has been the case for a long time, so there's updating it. And then they're also changing a bug where his W or his electrical storm sometimes wouldn't apply Mark of the Storm to enemies within Slicing Maelstrom.
So it's technically a slight nerf, and then the other one's technically a slight buff.
Yeah, so with the W, I believe this is the bug that they're referring to, that if you lightning dash in, right, like you electrical surge in and you ult and you hourglass right away, that there's a bunch of targets that are hit by the W, and if you hourglassed immediately, the W power surge would still go off but not stun anybody. And I don't know if that's like a latency issue when I played Kennen before, but I definitely noticed that would happen sometimes. So you always had to make sure that you got like your full W off and then you hourglassed. So this will probably change this a little bit. This will be a slight buff to Kennen. He's probably not going to be seen top lane too much, but he might come back as like a support niche pick, I think, like in competitive play.
The Nautilus changes. Now this is funny, because if you think back to like 5 months ago and you pictured seeing Nautilus getting nerfed, it would just be a joke. And now look at him.
Well, okay, so the reason why they're doing this is not because of support Nautilus and not because of jungle Nautilus, it's because of top Nautilus.
Yeah.
And top Nautilus is terrifying because if you play him correctly and you play him into the right matchup, he can't die. He's really good at getting away from top lane ganks, and he can build a early Rod of Ages, and then he can just scale hugely in terms of how big his tank is and how much damage that he can output during a team fight with like cooldown reduction.
I find this amusing because whenever Nautilus first got changed, I guess the E was slightly reworked and all that, I was thoroughly convinced that he was actually a really good top laner, especially against certain matchups. And especially all the other people, like in the factions thing I used to hang out with, completely said I was crazy, that it wouldn't work, and then...
Well, what happened is that top lane used to be like a giant knife fight. And by that I mean that you had a lot of heavily snowbally AD bruiser types, not tanks, bruiser types top lane. And if one of them got a advantage in kills and CS over the other, it would snowball.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw a lot of these people like Riven, and you saw like Aurelia, and even like, you know, like Zed top and Yasuo and like all these other bruiser tops that would basically try to snowball top. And those people, for the most part, I mean, like in ranked, depending on your elo, that varies, but you're seeing a lot of tanks top. Or you're seeing people like Rumble or like Aurelia and stuff like that. And you're not seeing, you know, like all any type champions like Zed, and you're not seeing like, you know, Lissandra top anymore and stuff like that. And Nautilus is really quite good at these auto attack dependent brawlers, and he's really good up against like a Maokai and stuff like that. Maokai can't really do anything to him. And the deal with Nautilus is that if you max his CDR, he can just output tons of waves of this E like every 4.5 seconds.
Tons of damage.
Tons of damage with his E. And it's AoE damage, and he just has to sit in the middle of the fight and just continually just deal damage. So I can understand why they're nerfing this, particularly for like competitive play, because you were seeing Nautilus top with like a Yasuo mid, because the Nautilus ult guarantees multiple knockups for the Yasuo ult. And it was pretty easy. It was pretty easy to engage with, and he scales well.
So, do you think that this is a significant enough change to take him out of the top lane?
Yeah, I think that this will definitely not make him as good late game. And I think sadly, because like I like playing Nautilus support, for example, this will make his late game slightly worse. But I believe his early game will still be just fine. I think he'll still be really good against counter matchups. Like he's really good at countering Thresh and certain other supports. So I think that he'll still be picked there and still played in support, but he probably won't be played top as much.
Okay, so on to the Rek'Sai changes. Now, I do not think that this will be hugely significant to Rek'Sai's viability. I don't think that this nerf was necessary. I do think Rek'Sai was a bit on the overpowered side. I don't think the radius of the knockup is necessarily the problem, though.
I do think Party will be knocked out of Plat 1.
Oh, God.
So we have a friend who plays nothing but Rek'Sai. He's a Rek'Sai only player.
We joke that this will hurt him.
Probably.
Yeah. So, on this change, do you think it's actually going to change much, Nate?
So I've only played probably about 6 games of Rek'Sai ranked this season, and she's, in my opinion, really easy to play. So like the learning curve was really easy on her, and it was like I didn't miss any knockups really ever. So this might make her a slightly higher skill cap, but I do not think that this will affect any kind of, you know, Rek'Sai mains. I think that I don't think this will be a huge issue.
I don't actually understand why this was, because if they're doing this for the purpose of Rek'Sai being OP and not easy to play, then this is kind of really strange. And I think the reason Rek'Sai is so strong isn't because of this, but because of her just extreme map pressure in the early game. She can just gank every lane so fast, it's ridiculous.
Well, okay, so like part of the reason why I think that they're decreasing the knockup radius is that Rek'Sai excelled at like mid-game, like, you know, 15-20 minute team fights that weren't even necessarily 5v5 fights, but they were maybe like 3v3 fights. And Rek'Sai could come in after the engage started and could tunnel under a wall and then knock up the entire backline. Whether that's like the ADC and the support, or that's the ADC and the mid laner, Rek'Sai, it was pretty easy to knock up 2 people.
Yeah.
So I think this is a nerf. Dude, it's going to be much harder to knock up multiple people. And when I've played Rek'Sai, I have knocked up multiple people when I was just trying to knock up one. So I think that that's the reason why they're doing this. And it'll be a slight nerf to her. But I think that she should still be strong, still overall, especially for solo queue.
So the Shyvana changes.
Okay, so I can talk about this because I've played a lot of Shyvana jungle in ranked in like the last patch and a half, like a lot. So Shyvana jungle at the moment is really, really good as long as you know how to counter jungle well. And her wave clear is obscene with the new buffs that she got within the last patch. So this tones down her late game damage slightly, but we're going to get to it later. But they buffed Devourer, which is the item that you want to get on her, and this slight nerf to her late game is it won't matter because of how good she's going to be with the new jungle item. So I think that they realized that Devourer was really good like on Shyvana, and they needed to tone her down slightly because otherwise she would just be ridiculous. So I still think she's very good. I think that she's extremely good for solo queue. If you enjoy the counter jungling play style and have a lot of map vision, she's quite good. Still not very good top lane, but jungle very, very good.
Okay, so the Singed changes. Now, these are obviously fairly significant, especially the fact that he's actually getting MR per level now.
Yes.
I don't think that this is enough to bring him back into top lane, because I think the problem with Singed right now is just the way his kit works makes him completely terrible against a lot of matchups. Like Vayne, for example, is very popular right now and completely wrecks Singed. Like there's nothing, she can just kite him forever.
Also for like competitive League of Legends, Sivir is a huge counter to Singed, and Sivir is played all the time.
I think that it's just the meta that's not being nice to him right now.
Oh yeah.
I think if those two ADCs fell out of the meta, that would actually significantly boost him.
I think part of the issue is that Singed was really good in an era when top laners oftentimes didn't take teleport.
Yeah.
And he could get away without needing like an exhaust or like an ignite top lane, because he could just either proxy, he could just be tanky enough to survive, or he could just run away. So this is a fairly significant buff, and I think that if I was a Singed main, I would be ecstatic about this. Yeah. Because it is quite a, like we are seeing more and more AP top laners being played, especially like in solo queue.
And I do think that the most significant buff, most people are overlooking this, but the fact that he laughs whenever he flings someone.
Obviously.
Tilt. Now I will say,
not
a long
to be,
time ago, back when they reworked Veigar, there's been a bug ever since to where when you kill someone, he doesn't laugh anymore. And I think this is the reason why he has fallen out of viability, and Riot has purposefully not fixed the 6 months.
Obviously.
Like,
they saw too many Veigar supports in
your
Korea.
Your heart used to just fill with love whenever you instantly burst the Ahri in the mid lane, and you just started laughing.
They pressed the kill button when Veigar pressed the kill button.
Yep. There's a very significant Veigar buff this patch we will get to soon. It's definitely going to help him out. Oh
yeah, most definitely. Anyways, so Singed, I think this is really, really good for him. He's going to be even tankier than before. He's going to still have the same problems because of different counter matchups. But I think that if you like playing Singed, then this is only going to be good. It's only going to be good times for you.
Really,
yes,
I'm really loving all these buffs to tanks and mid lanes.
I will say,
yes.
If you go back up to the Singed changes real quick, flinging someone. Now, only very good Singed have been able to pull this off consistently.
This is really hard to do.
Yeah. Flinging someone into your Mega Adhesive at max rank, especially catching someone out late game, is a 2-second snare. That is almost as big as a Veigar stud. And on a champion like this that is really good at engaging on people like to start a team fight, I think this is actually fairly significant.
Yeah, he's really good at catching out the person trying to split bot. And I think if we do have Impact, the top laner,
the boy wonder,
for Tip here in NA for LCS, and he is a very renowned Singed player. So we might see Singed picked at some point, maybe LCS, maybe, but we'll see.
I think that he's definitely better in the LCS than in solo queue. Like, if they go the Ghost Teleport, there's a lot of crazy things they can pull off in the early game to gank like a bot.
Well, I believe that Singed has a really good win rate. Top lane, yeah, so he has a 51% win rate on average. So I think that
actually really surprising.
Yeah, like if I remember, he's like always like around 50%. So I mean, like obviously, like if you look at the Singed mains that play more than 125 ranked games have a 56% win rate. People that is playing for the first time at 45. So like he's like a fairly skill-intensive champion.
Yeah, that's why I think, because the only people that are playing Singed right now in ranked are the people that are really good at playing Singed.
I think he's becoming more and more better in the meta as soon as we go back to carry tops.
Yeah.
You know, particularly like against Rumble and stuff like that. So I think this will be a really good quality of life change. If you enjoy playing Singed, this is going to be amazing. I don't think that you should start picking up Singed because he's going to be OP or anything. But I think he's going to be like in a really good spot because of these buffs.
And keep in mind, he did get buffed before this
as
well.
He did.
So this is just a bug fix on Skarner. It's not really worth mentioning. Like, can no longer be used on towers when canceling an auto attack on the passive's primary target. So the way this would work is if the enemy champion was under tower, and you got your 3 stacks on them, and right before you autoed them, you canceled it and autoed the tower, it would use the stunning and the extra damage on the tower. I don't think this is very significant, but hey, technically Skarner nerfs. Why not?
Okay, so this is very interesting to me because I played a lot of Syndra mid at one point. A lot of Syndra mid. I played Syndra support.
DFG Syndra.
Played a lot of DFG Syndra, a lot of max CDR Syndra. So she has had just an abysmal time. Not because she's terrible. Like, she is kind of out of the meta, and that's fine. But her kit is so bugged that I just don't play her anymore, and I really enjoy playing Syndra. I won't even really play her like in normals because she's just really bugged. So they're finally addressing this after, what, like 8 months or something like that? 6 months?
She had a Azir syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, like, people used to complain about Lissandra having bugs with her kit, and this is ridiculous. So hopefully this fixes things.
I don't think we really have to go over anything on those bug fixes except for
fixed
units.
A million bugs. They very like, I mean, it was just like there was just no shortage of, like, sometimes it would stun, oftentimes it wouldn't. It looked like it should have, like the ball went through somebody and didn't do anything.
So hold on, there is one really significant thing here, and that is units stunned by dark spears are no longer knocked back.
Yeah.
And this is good and bad for Syndra.
This is good. This is good.
There is it's mostly good, but there is a slight downside to it in the way of if there's an assassin or a tank trying to catch you, a lot of Syndras would throw their E backwards with the little ball. It would stun them and knock them back to gain them even more distance. Now it will just stun them. So technically they lose out on some distance there, but it's really good at catching people out now.
So what I haven't liked is that if you QE someone, so you stun them at max distance, it would push them back out of the range for you to pick up the ball and drop it on them and then hit R.
Yep.
So you would have to walk up and do it. So I think that overall this will be a good change for her. If you're running away, if you land this stun, you should be able to get away anyways. So I would agree that in certain situations, probably not as good. I think this is overall much better, and I think this will make her combo a much more fluid experience, rather than I would always actually like put in an auto attack after stunning the person, just because like you would have to walk up anyway. So I would just attack move, auto attack, WR. Mm-hmm. And this one, I believe, I haven't played it yet, but it sounds like you can do it in one fluid combo. So this is good. I mean, like, she's still not going to be amazing because we've moved away from the mid laner assassin, and people are really tanky, and Syndra's all about kind of one-shotting the squishy. So, but if you have a Nautilus support, you know, she's not going to be able to one-shot anyone, but I think she's a lot of fun, and so, I can't wait to try her out.
Can I talk about these Thresh changes?
Yes, because you're the Thresh main.
Now, I will say, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen, especially this passive thing. Fixed a bug where souls would appear to fly to Thresh from extreme distances. This was the worst, because you would be sitting bot lane, just minding your own business. Like, the jungler will kill Scuttle. You just see the soul fly down from half the map. So these souls are flying everywhere. They're just annoying. Like, wait. Oh, did I just get a soul? Oh no, I didn't. It just confuses you. It is annoying. One good thing about it, I noticed, is if the enemy jungler killed, like, Scuttle, for example, and you were bot, the soul would fly to you so you would know that they took it. So that's something. One thing, this is actually a fairly significant change. Dark Passage. Lantern now does not despawn while Thresh is mid-flight towards his death-sentenced target. So this basically gives your ADC more time to click the Lantern if you hooked someone to, like, max range and threw it. It also means that technically it has a longer range, because if you throw your Lantern at max distance, walk to the edge of its range, and then hook somebody. Flying towards them, even if you're out of the lantern's range, doesn't despawn it. So you can give your ally a longer way to engage or get away, etc.
It is actually significant because it's an extra like 1.5 seconds if you.
Yeah, it's actually pretty big in my opinion.
Particularly if you flash hook somebody.
Oh yeah.
And then you go in on.
Like I would always
Your
say,
death
it's
sentence.
the worst if you throw your lantern to max range, you like flash and you pull off this godly hook really far away, and as you're flying to them, your ADC like just misses and doesn't click the lantern in time, and so it despawns and then you die.
And then you die. And then your team flames you for feeding.
Yeah.
You're like, ugh.
Next change on Vhagar. This is the best buff I've ever seen. The missile size of his ultimate now scales with his ability power. Now, technically, this is nothing but a nerf, but I still love it.
Maybe not.
I haven't seen it yet. It depends on how big it's going to get, because if I can just get infinite AP and the size doesn't cap, and I would just love to cover the entire map in my own.
They did say that it caps, because I did see them say that
It's
they
kind
have
of
like a certain
Nasus
unit.
Q.
Yeah,
but-
I hope that it does get pretty big. Now
They said that I think it
technically,
maxes out like at like 5,000 AP or something like that.
Technically, it's
So-
only a nerf because it makes it much more visible to the enemy as it's flying towards them, and they have a bigger opening to like press Zanyas or something to get away from.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good trade-off. I
It's
like it.
it's more flavorful, bigger nuke.
Yeah.
For Viger.
Adds to the chamber.
Okay, so Xin Zhao.
Yeah, we really needed to nerf APs in this patch, man. He was
Oh, yes.
So I don't know why they're doing this now when like Xin Zhao really isn't played a lot, but probably someone out there was playing a little bit too much Runeglaive Xin Zhao, and Riot didn't appreciate it.
Hold on. As you're going through the patch notes, I found a Riot post explaining why they nerfed AP Xin Zhao, and I'll pull that up.
Okay. Do you want to link it to me actually on Skype?
Yeah.
And I'll
Just
put it on
you
my
keep
screen.
over this.
Yeah, let's show everyone their Skype. Oh, they have a different window. Never mind. Follow me on Twitter.
And it's not even that big of a change. It's like it's like 0.2.
0.2, yeah.
0.2. Like I don't think this will.
And it's just a heal.
I don't. It's like I really don't think AP Xin Zhao
really
is actually
nerfing
any
the-
good.
It's nerfing those.
So
certain-
I really don't think that this will discourage people from going AP Xin Zhao. I think the people that go AP Xin Zhao
No,
will
not
keep going
even.
AP Xin Zhao.
This is
So-
the nerf. This is the nerf. The Xin Zhao's to go Triforce jungle. It's like in bronze. Like they go like Triforce first item in the
Yeah.
jungle. And like, I can't do that anymore.
Be like, I'm gonna lose out a whole 4 HP on my heal. Now that'll completely break him, anyways.
Yeah.
I'm not
Wait,
fighting.
It doesn't say.
Okay, that's fine.
No, never mind. I'm an idiot. Never mind.
Okay, so we're moving on to Zillion. So
God knows Zillion.
Yeah,
Had a
so-
rough time.
Who
they're
plays
changing his W. Well, I played a little bit of him, but anyways.
Yeah, like a year
Rewind
ago.
can no longer be cast when both Zillion's Q and E are off cooldowns. So I think that this is very slight quality of life.
Mhm.
For him, this will let you not fat finger rewind at certain points. Basically, it won't let you rewind if there's nothing to rewind.
Yeah.
So pretty minor. I don't think that this will be what brings mid lane Zillion back into the meta, but anyways. So they are, and like they said, they did this before, but they
I own
are.
PFE on a different account.
Okay.
They tweaked his auto attack animation for Pulsefire Israel.
So I'm gonna go ahead and just quote what Meddler said on the AP ratio of Xin Zhao being reduced.
Okay.
First, he said, last I checked, we'd actually end up pulling that change. My understanding is it's something the balanced team still thinks might be an issue, but they're not so concerned about it that we need to preemptively act on it. Then he said, just checked, and it sounds like we decided to pull the change, but it hasn't been stripped out of the upcoming patch. Going to investigate tomorrow once back at work to see if we can still get the nerf pulled. It may be past the point where that's possible, however. If that's the case, we'll have to correct it in a later patch, or if we're hotfixing for some other purpose, possibly bundle the correction with that.
Wow, that's messed up. They're nerfing Zen just because, and not even gonna like.
So basically, someone who's on the balance team played a normal and went against some guy who was smurfing and decided to go AP Xin Zhao. The guy on the balance team thought that this is the most OP piece of shit thing he's ever seen. And I was like, you know what, we need to address this.
You like slipped a note to Morel.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this next enchantment change is quite possibly the biggest change in this pack.
So I don't know why they do this, because this happens all the time. So like, as someone who enjoys playing the jungle, every time that they've had an iteration of the original Feral Flare, it comes out and it's like, oh, finally, God, finally we can play fun junglers again. Yes, this is what we've all been waiting for, and it's glorious, and it's amazing, and you can play everybody in the jungle, and then they nerf it again because of Warwick. So I don't know why they didn't just preemptively nerf Warwick again.
No,
but
this is one thing. I'm actually really confused, because about a year and a half ago, they said they were working on a Warwick rework. They even posted what all of his new abilities were going to be, and then all of a sudden they scrapped it. So I don't understand why they wouldn't wait until they rework this champion to do this.
I have no idea. But... So I don't think Warwick is going to come back for like a 60% win rate. But I think that this will be really interesting, because you'll see Master Yi back. You could probably even see Fiora back. Possibly, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of oddball junglers that I think could be pretty decent, and maybe not even decent, but like more viable than they were.
Yeah.
So they give a long stated thing about what they're doing here, but what it comes down to is that the starting magic damage on hit will increase from 25 to 30. You are getting 1 stack per kill or assist.
That's
so, yeah. So basically, if you
on a monster,
yeah, on a large monster. So if you're giving up blue buff to somebody, you can now give blue buff to the mid laner and not take it. And I've been guilty of this, like on Shyvana. I will just take the blue buff because I want the stack and I want the cooldown. So I will now actually be slightly more inclined to give it to my mid laner.
Slightly.
Now,
Slightly.
There are 2 things that I would like to mention. Epic monsters. 5 stacks per take.
This is huge, and this is fantastic, because if you're playing Shyvana, if you're playing Master Yi, if you're playing all of these like early pressure, like auto attack, they want to be soloing Dragon early. You're playing like Udyr, you're going to be trying to throw down your pink ward, you're going to try to do like that 5.5 minute Dragon, you're going to try to, maintain Dragon control. This will help those people snowball. So I think that this is great, because it really encourages the playstyle for those junglers, that they're going to be, okay, we are going to clear fast, we're going to go do Dragon, we're going to, get that advantage for our team, we're going to counter jungle, we're going to do all that good stuff. So I think this is fantastic.
The next 2 changes are really big too. Now, champions, instead of 2 stacks per takedown, it's 1 stack per takedown. So this means they're trying to encourage these junglers to actually farm more than they already were.
Yes.
Which is actually pretty strange. I guess they thought that 2 stacks per takedown would be a little too snowbally.
Fun.
Rift Scuttler. Now, I would like to know why you get more stacks for killing the crab than you do for killing a champion, but you know what?
So this is huge, because what they're saying, and what a lot of people don't realize, even like in Platinum Elo, is like how you play certain junglers. And that, like, I play a lot of Shyvana, right? So what she's really good at, she's not really good at like the level 3 top lane gank. I mean, yeah, I usually take exhaust, and you can sometimes blow exhaust, and sometimes you can make the top laner flash, sometimes maybe you can get a kill. She's not really good at just running at people pre-6 and like having really good gank success. So what she does is she clears her jungle, and then she waits for the enemy jungle to gank. And then whatever side he came from, you go to the opposite side and you start counter jungling like right away. And what you do is you force the enemy jungler to either play super defensive, ward up his jungle, which means that he's not ganking, or you basically starve him and put him really behind. And either way, what you're doing is you're taking jungle pressure off of the enemy team, and you're gaining a gold lead for yourself, which you can team fight with. And so, you know, maintaining dragon control, baron control, and then scuttle control is what these junglers are really, really good at doing. So they're really encouraging that playstyle. Like, what you don't want to do on like a Master Yi or like Siobhan or something like that is you don't just want to, AFK farm your own jungle, recall, AFK farm your own jungle, recall, because that's how you will lose a game, by not ganking. If you choose not to gank so much, you really need to be taking the fight into the enemy jungle, and you need to be maintaining dragon control and also scuttle control. And so this encourages that playstyle. I think it's great.
So, on the next thing, while stacking your Devourer, you are accompanied by a ghost dog who will grow with stacks.
And is really cute looking. Yeah.
It's amazing. Now this is cool. At 30 stacks, Ghost Dog merges with the Wielder, and the Devourer transforms into Sated Devourer. This is the biggest change. Every other basic attack triggers on hits twice, because your little dog buddy's hitting with you. This is pretty darn big.
Yeah.
This is pretty darn big.
Especially with the Devourer passive as it is.
Yes.
Which is
Master Yi.
Master Yi's gonna be ridiculous.
So,
Now,
what they're doing here is that sometimes you can get up to 100 stacks on your Devourer. You can't do that anymore.
Nope.
So, this is, I think that I like this overall. I think what they're doing is they're disincentivizing people that'll just completely AFK farm and try to get as many stacks as possible. And that's really a problem for like Udyr. It's less of a problem if you're counter jungling, like I said. But this will be trying to encourage these junglers to hit their power spike and then try to fight. And this new Phantom hit is really good for basically anyone that uses Blade the Ruined King. Or even Tiamat.
on the next change, I'm going to quote Nate and say, this is what Riot's balanced team was thinking. Man, we sure do hate that all these mid laners are taking Runeglaive.
So let's buff it.
Better buff it.
Yeah. So I've played a fair amount of Evelynn jungle, which is one of the people that's like kind of the target demographic for like Runeglaive. And the problem was that the damage was really lacking in comparison to going Trinity Force or going Iceborne Gauntlet. That, yeah, it cost less gold, and you didn't have like this like power trough where you basically weren't very good at team fighting, like around 20 minutes up until 30 minutes. So like between 20 and 30 minutes, Evelynn's not very good at like team fighting. If she makes it past 30 minutes, she's really, really strong because she has her offensive item and now she's building tank. So this is a really good buff for all the junglers that are building Runeglaive, and fortunately or unfortunately, it's really good for all the mid laners building Runeglaive. And you're probably only going to see more of this, including Gangplank. And you're probably going to see more Nasus, and you're probably going to maybe even see more Victor mid. And you're especially going to see Ezreal mid with Smite. So this is a fairly significant upgrade from 0.75 base attack damage to 1.0. So this is half of the bonus damage that Trinity Force gives you. And they're giving you 10 extra ability power. That's a lot. This is actually really good. This is still doesn't fix Fiddlesticks' problem. But this is pretty good. And I think this will be good for Elise especially. Yeah, I mean, it'll be really good for Evelynn. I've seen certain Sejuani players do it. I don't think it's fantastic on that. You can. This is actually really good for Malphite jungle,
Diana.
just because you get mana back. Diana jungle's really strong at the moment, so I think that they are buffing non-tank junglers, which is very interesting.
Which is kind of a good thing.
Yeah. So I think this will be very interesting. I think that you'll see more jungle diversity because of this. But they're still not encouraging full-on assassin type junglers. I mean, yeah, you can play Master Yi, but you won't be seeing... Yeah.
However,
this doesn't affect Kha'Zix. So.
I will address this real quick. They kind of are now. If you look at the last PvE patch that just happened, they are changing Warrior a bit to help them.
Yeah, to help them catch up. But this is good. I think this will be good for junglers in general. It's always fun when they buff these items because you can try out all these other champions now. Like I said, this will give you a bit more diversity. I think that maybe Kayle jungle can have a bit of a comeback, maybe. Evelyn's going to be even stronger.
Especially with the last buffs. I think Kayle jungle might be a thing.
I think so, yeah. And the other thing is that Runeglaive gives a lot of mana back when you auto-attack with it. So that's, like I said, really good for like a lot of junglers had huge mana problems. So I give a big thumbs up to this. And the other change that they're doing, which is actually a fairly big deal, is they're changing Righteous Glory. And this is a very, very common top lane support item. Yeah, so... the 100 HP, like they're keeping the same cost for this item. This item was fairly gold efficient, and now it's not. So you're losing 100 health, and then the cooldown goes from 60 seconds to 90 seconds. Which is a big deal.
The bigger change is the health.
No, because, okay, so here's the thing, is if you played support, like Nautilus, and you rush this item right away, with the update to the support utility tree, you get CDR off of ability cooldowns. I mean, like item cooldowns. So you could literally Righteous Glory every 45 seconds if you wanted to. And that was really good because if you get it and laning phase is still going on, you can trade with it, meaning that you can speed up your ADC and you can deal a bunch of damage and then you can retreat and you can wait 45 seconds for your jungler to come in for a gank and then you can just kill him. Like, it's actually really strong. And this will give... you see Righteous Glory blown, especially like in competitive, all the time. Because it has such a short cooldown. So this will make top laners and supports think twice before they actually engage it. And it won't be as gold efficient item. Like, this is a very no-brain item to build on a bunch of people because it was very gold efficient and because of the low cooldown. And this will, you know, make some people think twice, and maybe you don't, you know, just auto buy Righteous Glory every time on like Nautilus or like Maokai.
I still think it's a very good item.
Yes, I would agree.
Add skill to the item.
So they are slightly buffing. Right? Are they buffing, or I think they're just
this is a buff.
Slight, right?
It's a huge buff. Are you kidding me? I can now, Nate, if you build a Spear Visage first, I can heal you for 20% more that I won't use.
I think that the big interaction is with like Soraka, because Soraka needs like health regen.
Did somebody say Taric buffs?
So
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So God, this is quite slight. I don't think that this will be game changing.
I can't sleep tonight knowing that.
I think it'll be interesting on Raka.
Oh my God.
I think that if you play Nami and you like so like on certain supports like Sona and Nami, you would always, if you really wanted the MR and you wanted health, you would just get Banshee's Veil. This might be kind of interesting to get Spirit Visage on one of them instead. But that's kind of a very niche
thing. The thing was, it used to be self-healing, so it pretty much doesn't change in that factor. I think it's mainly just better overall to get on a top laner or a jungler if you have a healing support.
Yeah.
So, I think it's pretty good.
The next changes are huge.
My special.
Okay, so they are completely changing itemization, AP itemization, and I think that this is absolutely fantastic.
Wait, is that... Tell me if I'm being stupid, but is that how you spell itemization?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
There is no Z in it.
Okay.
This is my specialty area.
Yeah, so Thomas here, ADC main, Jinx player extraordinaire.
Okay.
Really good at right-clicking and doing nothing else.
Okay, let's talk about Blasting One. The reason why, I used to be mid laner, okay? Reason why Blasting One is 10 less gold. It's because mid laners is so terrible that they can't farm on ability champions that don't build AD, obviously. So they have to like decrease the cost of like all their good early game items, such as Blasting One, Needlessly Large Rod. Yeah, like needless, it went down by like a lot. Okay, that is a lot, but it lost 20 AP. QQ, and cry about that. Okay, and so, and nobody talks about VF, and that's my input.
Okay, so Blasting One, so right?
That is the opinion of a salty AD carry man.
Yes.
Very, very salty AD carry man. Shook, let's talk about Needlessly Large Rod here,
okay,
because this is very interesting.
So, bundle these two changes together. Needlessly Large Rod, definitely going down a ton in gold. It's losing 20 AP. I don't think it's the biggest deal. If you look at Rabadon's Death Cap, it's technically getting a total cost increase. That's because it's builds out of more things now. But
it's getting buffed, though.
Yeah, it's getting buffed a lot. Because if you look at the ability power bonus, 30% to 35% is a lot bigger than you might think it would be.
Yeah.
Namely on champions like Victor and Veigar, champions that and Cassiopeia. Those three champions namely get a ton of AP because they have passives that give them either infinite or a couple hundred more than it should. And so this dramatically increases their burst potential if it wasn't already high enough. Another thing, Needlessly Large Rod being so much cheaper means that a lot of times if you would play mid, especially say you're playing Victor, when you back, you would always get your hex score first. And next back, you would normally always want to build into an easy large item. But when you back, unless you got a couple of kills, you're probably not going to have 1,600 gold. And so this gives you a choice instead of just buying your boots pots or upgraded boots second back. You can actually start building into your bigger items earlier, and that's huge.
Also, if you had to if you were forced out of lane for some reason, you can build Rabadons out of Amp Tome, and just save it for later, or if you're going to build it into something else. So it really helps in early itemization.
Yeah, this helps you out overstay.
Mordekaiser, a lot of Mordekaiser mains would start Amp Tome to build into Hextech Gunblade, or I mean Hextech Revolver. And now, hey, if they get really fast,
yeah, I mean,
Rabadons.
Yeah, what I meant was AP people have Amp Tome. It gives what is it, 35 AP or whatever, 120, whatever. All right, so and we have Longsword, which gives 1080.
Okay,
yeah,
but you can auto attack.
So on to Zhonya's. Costs less gold, gives less AP. It's a good trade-off in my opinion.
Yes.
300 gold for 20 less AP is perfectly fine, especially for it being such a good item.
You can get it your power spikes
and stuff. So that's technically a direct nerf
fiddle
to
buff.
AD mid laners. Luden's Echo went down in gold cost.
Now, let me just mention this fact, is that it's really cool that if you want to get the Death Hat second item, that's going to go down towards you trying to maximize the amount of AP that you can get. But they're making items that you would normally get early on in certain defensive matchups. Like you're oh, I'm against Zed. Well, I'm going to rush Armguard and then I'm going to go Hourglass. This is now easier to get Hourglass. And the reason why you want Hourglass isn't because you want to try to maximize your AP, otherwise you get Death Hat. You want it because of the active ability and because of the armor. So this is amazing. This is fantastic.
It makes mid lane a lot more interesting in the way that you have a lot of choices as to what you can do. You're not forced into the same build path over and over again. On to Ludens. Now, I think this is pretty big in the fact that it's a better change than Zhonya's. This is the fact that it still went down to 300 gold, lost 20 AP, but it gained 3% movement speed, which is
gained
pretty
the
big.
mastery movement speed. Wow.
Gained the mastery movement speed. So this is great. So now this is the item that you build if you really want movement speed. And if you really want, damage reduction from AD, you go Hourglass. So this encourages different build paths for different mid laners based on the situations that they're coming up with. So this is, I think, fantastic. And I think Ludens is very good still.
There are a couple of niche mid laners that these changes definitely help. I don't think it's enough to bring them into the meta.
Fiddle.
No.
It's mainly the item-dependent mid laners. For example, like Mordekaiser. Mordekaiser is very, very reliant on getting items. Now that he can get those items that keep him alive earlier, it'll make it to where he can survive ganks more often and make him reach his power spike earlier. So I think this definitely helps champions like that and Veigar and other things, but I don't think it's big enough to bring them back into the meta.
No, because I think it helps everybody. And
it does help.
And it especially helps more seasoned players because it allows you to more closely tailor your itemization to what's optimal for that situation at that time.
In fact, another thing, the only mid laners it doesn't technically help are either the extremely early game ones, which I can't really think of too many off the top of my head, and the AD mid laners. And all of the AD mid laners are pretty much assassins that things like Mordekaiser countered. And now that they're not going to be played as often, he's not going to be played as often.
Exactly. Rye lines they're changing. Costs slightly more.
I can see how this could work on Caitlyn, Nate.
Okay.
Single target slows better. Area of effect.
I will say, summoned minions, e.g. Mordekaiser's R, Children of the Grave, and Annie's summoned Tibbers now slow on hit 20% for 1 second. I want to know if this means if you summon a Ghost as Mordekaiser, of like a ranged AD carry, and they continually attack someone, does that mean they will pretty much be permaslowed for 20%?
No, I think it's just for 1 second.
Well, it depends on if it's 1 second every time they attack someone, or if it's just 1 second and then they can't proc it anymore.
I don't know. That'd be interesting.
Because that'd actually be pretty big. Like, especially on Annie's Tibbers.
Yeah, so like you just have Tibbers on them constantly at 20%.
Because not only did it engage the fight, it literally sticks them to your team to wipe
that's actually...
them.
Or like Victor's ult, like you're saying, and stuff like that.
Oh my god, I didn't even think of Victor's ult.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's actually really interesting now that I think about it.
That actually...
that might actually... So like I've been playing support Victor, so if I could go Rylai's Liandry support Victor and then hit everyone with like a slow burn ultimate, that could be ridiculous.
Okay, so on to this. Items are obviously ridiculous now. Okay. Archangels.
So this is where I've been waiting for. This is now my time to shine. I buy tier on support. I buy tier on top laner. I buy tier on mid laner. I freaking like Tear of the Goddess. I build it all the time. If I'm in a normal, I will just build it on anybody. I am a huge fan of Tear of the Goddess. And this is a great change, in my opinion.
I don't think we need to say much about this. It's just a straight-up buff.
Yeah. It's a straight-up buff.
Considering Archangels is a late-game item to begin with, the extra 300 gold cost doesn't really mean too much.
Yeah, that 300 gold that, you got off of your needlessly large fraud, you can now put into your fucking Archangels.
Yeah, but it's easier to build. Like the build path for it is improved.
Yeah,
because now you get like the needlessly large fraud. Like this is great. This is perfect.
80 carries have been built into same item for three seasons. No one talks about it.
Rod of Ages changes.
Same. Now look, another gold buff. Huh.
So this is obviously a nerf to the health and mana it instantly gives you, but it's a buff to the mana and ability power growth over time, and the gold cost went down. I personally think that this encourages it more on things like Annie, things that want to get that more AP per minute for the burst things, and doesn't encourage it as much on things like Maokai.
Exactly.
Which I think is exactly what they were going for. It's a good change overall.
Yeah.
Nerfs to it.
So this is this is a slight, like I said, nerf, like the top laner Nautilus, because you don't get quite as much health. But you do end up with slightly more mana. And
can I voice my concern on something real quick?
Yeah.
Everything we have listed so far is a pretty big buff to Annie.
Kill me.
Actually, yeah, that's
pretty concerning if you ask me.
That's why we.
That might be actually quite terrifying. Now I think about that, yeah. She will now hit her power spike sooner and harder, and she will now slow you more. Okay.
Well, she doesn't need the slow because you'll already be dead.
I think any buff to mid laners buff Annie, so they should nerf her.
Okay, so the Haunted Guys thing may seem like a nerf, but if you go to Landry's Storm...
Oh God.
So they are significantly buffing, for one, Rylai's Crystal Scepter, and they are buffing Liandry's Torment.
So this is actually a...
Huge buff. This is massive buff.
Why is...
Because Liandry's already dealt a lot of damage, if you knew how to use it right.
Story time.
Okay.
Oh God.
Before Victor was reworked, way a long time ago, I was one of the few people who played him. Now, a common thing you could actually do on him, because his ultimate and things used to react differently with each other, especially his E. Now, his E used to put a dot on people when you augmented it. And so the Liandry's and Rylai's build on him were actually really good, because you would late someone, it would slow them for the engage because of the dot, and then you could just ult them, and they could never get out of it. I think that if the Rylai's thing that was mentioned earlier actually works on his ult consistently, that this could mean there's some different build paths you could go on Victor.
Yes. And also, dare I say it, Annie, because there is a build path for Annie where you get the Liandry's. Because it's really good with Tibbers, and it gives you Magic Pen early on.
So this next thing is just pretty much a buff to Void Staff.
Yeah, so this is great. So it costs a bit extra, more ability power. They're making it so a lot of these items either have 80 ability power or 100 ability power. Completely fine with this. But here we go. So like Nashor's Tooth is commonly built on Diana, for example, Elise, Kayle.
I think this is a straight up buff because most of the champions you built it on, you didn't care as much about the attack speed as you did the AP.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, it's 80 gold for 10% attack speed and 20 AP added on.
Okay, this is actually a significant change. Your abilities heal you for 50% of the damage dealt, calculated before the opponent's resistance.
Yes.
Time to be flat.
Now, I will
33% for AoE.
I do really, really want to try Mordekaiser now after all these changes.
You just go Woda early on?
Woda used to rush that all the time. It started to fall out, but with this change, I think it might be better than it was. God. Its build is basically just different. It builds out of Amp Tome now, which is pretty much just a buff. You can start building into your Morellonomicon earlier. So.
Morellonomicon unchanged, pretty much.
Same thing for Athene, just a straight up buff. Build into it earlier.
And Twisted Tree Line we don't care about, and that's it. Bug fixes, upcoming skins.
I really like Gentleman Gnar and the
Chroma
Bard
packs.
I'm actually a fan of the Bard.
I am too. I'm still not going to buy it out of principle. But anyways.
Well, I think that's about it for this patch.
Yep.
Want to give any closing statements, Thomas?
Next patch is the ADC patch. Not even.
Oh.
Too bad it's not. That's what I'll say.
And don't let your memes be dreams.
Yeah.
Don't let your memes be dreams, boys.
Till next time.